Wow.
Yeah, we've got a good. We've really so we're having like I had put. Did the audio play for you, Matt, or?
No, it didn't. I was hoping it
Oh
was
my
just me.
God. I like it. Like this is really frustrating because like I've been fighting with StreamYard. It was
You just
like
you just did the thing where you shared.
no like
Don't you have to like tick a box?
No, share audio is checked.
Oh, no kidding. Oh, that's weird.
Share audio is checked on this, so hopefully this doesn't do this for the other.
Well, all this,
clips.
that was beautiful visuals. We've got a lot to live up to just on that.
It's got a even better soundtrack. Like we would have been able. The big thing is he sent this to me and I tried to add it to the branding so that way we could just use it as a clip. But it was just a little bit too big. So by the time we go through next week, we'll have that up. I sincerely apologize, Aldous. Like Aldous crushed this. Like it's great. The music,
yeah, super awesome. Very generous.
Absolutely fantastic. But so yeah, welcome to When in Rome with our first intro that's been done by Aldous. It's great stuff, and tonight's show is kind of bittersweet. We are going to be talking about the 13th Legion, which is a really exciting topic. But the reason why we are talking about it is because of the passing of one extraordinary son of the son of Rome. But before we get into that, let's introduce ourselves to our guests, our all of one. That I am the host, Michael Oden of Nine Realms Publishing. SPQR Digitals should have just went out here in the last day or so. So
yes,
hopefully people have been reading that and hopefully they're enjoying it. Rome did Cicero dirty. I don't know. I think that Rome handled him pretty all right.
Polo did him dirty. How about that?
Yeah.
Well, he gave him a clean kill, so
yeah,
the most you could ask for. Yep. Yeah, and I'm Matt C. I'm creator of Kyrie, which ships to me from Hong Kong in 48 hours. I'm told, which is exciting.
Wait, you're not using Kablam again?
Only for floppies for the books. It's just I just get too fancy with the books. I can't find that. Not for 10K raised. I can't print that in the US. I got to go overseas. Yeah.
Indeed. That's fair. But anyways, so as I was saying, we lost a son of Rome here in the last week. Actor Ray Stevenson, which it's been genuinely infuriating because all of these news outlets are like actor from Thor franchise and upcoming Ahsoka series, and I'm like, you absolute fuckwits.
Yeah,
that's Titus Pullo.
Yeah,
put some respect on the name. That's Titus Pullo from Rome.
And if they do mention him, it's been interesting. They're trying to like figure out a way to like honor his acting, the complex role that he had, and like they'll do stuff. I was reading an Insider article today, and they were like, despite the incredibly toxic culture that he grew up in, like you could see, like he's like struggling to be a better man and not give into his like. They're trying to like elevate him from like he's a character that clearly like he grows a lot in the show. 100%. But he's not. He never. I don't think he ever. Like he doesn't stop being Titus Pullo.
No,
like, he just finds like a more honorable way to do it. I guess one that isn't just thinking about wine and
I think
women.
that the closest thing to him straying from the character he was at the beginning of the show is actually towards the end of the first season, where like when they are marching on when they're visiting the city before they end up marching on the Rubicon. There's a whole discussion about whether or not Caesar should march on the city and take over and everything, and Pullo talks about I think that he should, because all the fat cats are this, that, the other, and Varinus talks about how no man of honor would follow him, it's sacrilegious, etc., etc. And then by the end of the show, Pullo's kind of gone through this kind of reversal, and they have a fantastic juxtaposition conversation between him and Varinus, and he straight up says, time was once that you said that you wouldn't follow Caesar across the Rubicon, but here you are being his man in the politics of it all and everything like that.
There's a lot of like, that's what's interesting, because Varinus is like, he's honor driven, he's the career soldier, he's a family man, all this kind of stuff. So like he grows in that direction in some respects, where he rubs off on Pullo, I guess.
Well, and they both kind of rub off on one another,
like good friendships do.
100%. And it's very interesting to see them grow. But at the end of the day, as you said, like neither of those characters feel like they are alien to who they were at the beginning of the show. I'd say the only character that you could make that with maybe is Varinus. But like even still, Varinus is still very much Varinus, and that's kind of what season 2 is him kind of struggling with that version, with
identity,
as a soldier or as this mob boss, and the mob boss thing doesn't fit, because at the end of the day, Varinus is this very conservative, valued person, and he is a stranger in that world. But anyways, not the point.
Good analysis.
Point is that Ray Stevenson passed away, and the entire classical community that watched Rome and everything like that adored that show has been in mourning effectively ever since.
Yeah.
And so like we were initially going to be talking about a dual topic here today, with the discovery of the remains of the 19th Legion at Teutoburg Forest, and Mary Beard's refuting the claims on the body of Arsinoe, the sister of Cleopatra, that and like the quote unquote discovery of this personage is a very large part of the Afrocentrist revisionism on Cleopatra, and we'll do that another time. Plus, I'm kind of sick of talking about Cleopatra at this point. Like, this is a Rome stream, and while
it's slightly stale.
While Cleopatra VII plays a very big role in that story, I'm kind of done.
we might swing back around when Gal Gadot makes her debut. But that's a while yet.
I don't think that movie's happening. Like Gadot's,
you don't think?
No, like Patty Jenkins's career is dead. Wonder Woman 84 old Yellered her career.
And here's hoping.
Like I'm fairly like she hasn't done anything since then. Gadot has had roles and has been doing stuff since then. If nothing else, getting into like fun little action pieces where she just gets to be hot and badass. Like, but Jenkins's career, that movie was so bad that she was supposed to have a Star Wars thing. It's been canceled. Like,
oh, that's right. She did,
Like she's had multiple projects pulled out from under her because of how universally panned Wonder Woman 84 was.
Yeah. Closest Gal Gadot may ever get is what was the Nile movie, The Murder on the Nile,
Yeah,
from last year. That's closest
the
she's ever getting to Egypt now, maybe.
probably
Yeah.
and let's be real. Like, while the Black Cleopatra thing was definitely dumb and bad, if we thought that the Egyptians threw a temper tantrum about that, imagine how much more of a temper tantrum they would have, like how
If
much
an
more
Israeli plays her.
if an Israeli, not even just an Israeli, a Israeli veteran of the IDF
Yeah. Yeah.
plays Cleopatra, that's gonna cause some. That's gonna cause some.
That's fair. To quote
Um,
the class action lawsuit that went out. It's against Muslim values to to, to portray Cleopatra the way they did in the Netflix show.
I don't. I don't.
I'm just going to go out
I
on a
don't.
limb and say it might be against those same values for Gal Gadot to play her.
And like that's the thing, is it's really weird seeing the Egyptian argument against the Cleopatra things. Is like they're like, I want to like give them a round of applause for standing up and be like, no,
Sure.
you're revising our history. But then I see their arguments and I go,
Yeah.
you guys
Yeah.
aren't
Room
using
for
the
improvement.
right stuff. Like, I just don't. Oh, it's disappointing. But anyways,
Mm-hmm.
moving back to it, we're going to be talking about the 13th Legion tonight. So the 13th Legion is one of Caesar's most prominent legions. So what a lot of people don't realize when it comes down to Julius Caesar is his military career starts very late in life. By comparison, I should say. Caesar, when he was young, had effectively been driven into exile from Rome when Sulla became dictator. Caesar had familial ties with Marius, who was Sulla's political enemy. And so when Sulla took over the city, Caesar and his family members were on the lists of conscriptions to be like listed as enemies of the state, do harm to them, and what have you. So Caesar had spent a good chunk of his youth outside of the city. These formative years where most members of his ilk, of the patrician class, would be building their career in statecraft and military campaigning and what have you. He is instead kind of on the run. There's even a point during where he gets abducted by pirates, which is a fun story that we can cover another time. But Caesar gets started on the military path relatively late in life, mid-30s, and he starts off as a governor, being a governor in Spain, which is where he raises his first legion, and his most trusted Legio Decem Equestris, which was his most trusted unit, that would go with him throughout his entire career. But eventually, when you have the Gallic campaigns come around and he's helping out the Gauls, he raises 3 more legions while he's in Gaul. So he raises the 11th, but then he raises at the same time Legio Duodecim and Tredecim. These 2 legions are the Gemina legions, legions 12 and 13. And they both bear the same sigil. They have the lion, and the saying of the legion is the lion roars again. So like as an homage to the fact that they are these twin legions that were both brought up at the same time. So the lion roars again. Let me I know I have it in the description of the video, and I can't believe I didn't have that up. But I don't know. That's echoing. That's weird. But
What's it a link to?
no, like I just wanted the Latin of LEGIO.
Nice.
I saying
Well,
it,
don't worry.
Man,
Yeah,
it's in the video description, guys.
Yeah.
We've been joined by Red Dress Chris.
Hey, buddy.
Hello, Chris. Good to have you. We're talking about the 13th Legion here. But so Caesar raises these legions in Gaul, and the 13th is very quick to establish itself. It performs very admirably in Gaul, fighting against the Nervian, fighting a battle against the Nervians during the siege of Gergovia, and while they are not implicitly labeled as being there, it's pretty much given that they were fighting alongside Caesar during the Battle of Alesia as well, which is probably the military crowning achievement of Julius Caesar. It's an absolute masterpiece of siegecraft. That when you read about it, you just go, "There's no way it happened this way," and then it's crazy because even with the propensity for classical sources to blow up the numbers, the number estimate by the archaeology isn't all that far off from what Caesar puts down in his commentaries at Alesia. And when I say that, I don't mean that Caesar was being completely honest. These things were still very much exaggerated. They were still very exaggerated, but by comparison,
it's a political book. He's going to round up a little bit. Sure.
Yeah, all this is a full episode needs to be spent on these. Absolutely. And in fact, that would be a fun one to do. But it is a siege of the siege. Yeah, no, it is absolutely. It is the battle that really cements Julius Caesar as the military leader of his time. Up until this point in time, the power structure in Rome is dictated by the first triumvirate. You have these three major political figures that, while not while the triumvirate isn't an official point of office at this point in time, these guys are running the city. So you have Marcus Crassus, who is effectively the bankroller of everything. He's the wealthiest man in Rome, and he's also got a military background. Most notably, he is the guy that effectively put down the Spartan slave revolts, even though his co-triumvir Pompey got a lot of the credit, which caused some issues between those two. But then you have Gnaeus Pompey Magnus, who was effectively Cornelius Sulla's understudy and had made a very big name for himself handling things in the East. He had handled some revolts in Judea. He had had some bouts with Parthians. He had done very well for himself. He was a tremendous force in taking down the Mithridatic empire of Pontus. He he had really established a very big name for himself, and then you had Julius Caesar, who was the populist. He was from the same political party as the Gracchi, which we spent our first episode talking about. This People's Party that was all about focusing on how the city could be giving back to the people. And this is where Julius Caesar was. That was his role, as he was the popular one. He was the one that was making the moves and everything to get all the votes needed where they needed to go to maintain everything. Crassus provided the money, and Pompey was the force. But once you have this campaign in Gaul, and once you have the siege of Alesia that effectively brings that to the close, the power dynamic shifts, and it's only cemented by the fact that right before this, Marcus Crassus is killed. And so now there's not a triumvirate. You have these two figures, and one's entire thing has been based off of popularity, and one's entire thing has been based off of military might. Well, now Caesar has popularity and military might. The scale's unbalanced, and there's no third wheel to effectively balance things out. And so the tensions rise. Pompey, while he is married to Julius Caesar's daughter, Julia, she dies in childbirth, severing this last link between the two, and eventually their eyes get turned on each other, and Pompey sides with anti-Caesarian factions within the Senate, led primarily by Cato the Younger, who was a vehement antagonist to Caesar. And there's some very funny stories. In fact, my favorite Julius Caesar story has to do with him kind of pissing all over Cato the Younger. That was the whole deal, is they end up declaring, they send Caesar a thing that effectively states that, he is to disband his legions and return to Rome and be put on trial as a war criminal and a traitor to the Republic. And Caesar has to act fast. Now, moving an army is not an easy thing. It takes time. So Caesar doesn't have time. He has to take advantage of his already mobilized forces, and so he picks out a single legion to go with him and cross over the Rubicon, this little trickle of a river that, if you looked at it, you wouldn't, it bears no real strategic importance or anything like that. It's hardly even a river. It looks more like a creek. But what it is the barrier of which no Roman commander can bring troops over the Rubicon without it being a declaration of war on the city. All soldiers cease being soldiers at the Rubicon and become citizens, right? So Caesar marches over the Rubicon and delivers his alea iacta est, the die is cast, and the legion he brings with him is the 13th. And so this is probably the most famous thing that the 13th Legion does, is they are the legion that crossed the Rubicon with Caesar. It's a very big moment. It's iconic. And it's no surprise that this is the legion that HBO's Rome wants to put its focus on. We got Blue Samurai Zero asking if we can start over. His IQ is hungry. Well, you can catch the replay, bro. But
welcome, Blue Samurai.
Yes. But that being said, You know, the 13th will continue to distinguish itself. It fights in all of the major battles, or most of the major battles in the Civil War, and they actually secured a man, I'm blanking.
Well, can I just say this might be a good moment?
Yeah.
One of the things I really like about the HBO show is like how do you make something like an army, like how do you make a legion compelling, like visually, like for fiction, like HBO does. You can't, like, you've got these you know, the main characters of history, as it were, that kind of march off the page of, you know, the historical accounts, and like all the famous people at the top. But like as you already pointed out, like the legions are a huge part of this story. And how do you tell that story without just saying the 13th all the time? I like they squared that circle so well by like personalizing, like just like taking these like emblematic, like two specifically two soldiers, right, that are like beneath the level of what we see when we look at the history pages, but to kind of like, but they become kind of like the viewport through which you see these historical figures play out, and it helps you kind of in a way be a part of the 13th, because I think they're meant to be your eyes and ears as you're like watching
100%.
history happen, you know,
And
which is just a fascinating way to do that, you know.
It's a great thing that you mentioned that, because this is actually something that, I mean, obviously it was done with the intention to capture the audience, but this is something that Caesar even does in his commentaries. And in fact, the two main characters of HBO's Rome, Lucius Varinus and Titus Pullo, those aren't randomly picked names. These two figures are actually characters. Not even characters. These characters are actually figures that are talked about in Caesar's commentaries. They are in Caesar's commentaries. They're both centurions of the 11th Legion as opposed to the 13th, and they are excellent officers. And they get into a competition, and they're constantly just one-upping each other, and it just they're trying to prove which one of them is the best of them, and it's effectively a draw. But like the way Caesar sets it up is it's this very dramatic thing, because Caesar is ever a man of the people. He understands the power and the of a story to getting to the masses, and that's what his commentaries were. Is they were you know, as much as they were a, you know, him recording the account, he, unlike most scholarly figures of his age, he isn't writing this in Greek. The original transcription of his commentaries, Commentarii de Bello Gallica, or de Bello Republic, de Bello Civilli, these books are all written in Latin. They're written in the people's language, very basic Latin. There's a reason why you will very frequently see like initial like 100 level courses in Latin looking at Caesar's commentaries, because it uses very basic sentence structure, because the target audience of these books was the people. And so that brings back to what you were saying, Matt, is Caesar knew, and HBO's Rome knew, is the best way to get the people to understand the Legion and its importance is to give you characters, to give you these figures that inspire and humanize this otherwise intangible element of the story.
Yeah,
right?
the more alien figures that are more historic get contrasted with these more eminently relatable characters on the ground level,
Correct.
which is that's just such a brilliant device.
100%. And that's one of the things that makes HBO's Realm so good, and it is aged like fine wine, in my opinion. Even season 2, which is nowhere near as grand as season 1, predominantly because it was rushed due to a whole bunch of factors. Like they didn't even think they were getting a second season. They effectively got thrown it like very, very late. The gap between season 1 and 2 it was massive. Most people were kind of surprised when season 2 was announced. But anyways, point is that this is that's the real meat on the bone of HBO's Realm is this ability to tap into it. And the 13th Legion is the perfect legion to put in to put under the scope, under this microscope, because they are there for these key moments. And even more so, and this is one of the things that I actually really liked about the second season, and I wish that it hadn't been as rushed, because there is this whole element of the 13th gets disbanded by Caesar after Pharsalus, which is the final battle between Caesar and Pompey. Okay. They will eventually get brought up again. They get Augustus raises the 13th Legion once more to deal with Sextus Pompeius, who's the son of Pompey in Sicily in 41 BC. So it's the 13th gets brought up, and some of the people that get conscripted to that are veterans of Julius Caesar's 13th, but many of them are going to be obviously fresh recruits. But these soldiers that fought with Caesar in Gaul, that fought with him in Greece against Pompey, they get disbanded. And they're given land and everything, but there is this element of, well, I've never been a farmer. I've been a professional soldier my entire life. How the fuck do I farm the land? One of my favorite characters that often gets overlooked in that show is I'm blanking on his name off the top of my head, but he's Pullo and Varenus's like third best friend, who is a centurion from the 10th.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
And like initially, Julius Caesar effectively bribes the guy off and helps him calm down the veterans of the 10th Legion with a bribe and with money and land. The next time you see this guy, I believe, is in the second season. And they're like, I thought that you were off being a farmer. And it is like, I tried. My land went to shit. I couldn't afford it. I had to sell it. I couldn't afford the upkeep, so I had to sell it. And that's the thing, is that one of the things that happens when you have the Marian reforms to the Legion is, prior to the Marian reforms, the Roman Legion was a militia, structured very similar to what you would have in the Greek polis. It was a volunteer army that was seasonal for war campaigns and what have you, and would act in response to the needs of Rome. But otherwise, the majority of these people had other trades, other professions that they were doing all the time. But once you had the Marian reforms and you had the rise of this professional Roman soldier, where these people were being paid to be full-time soldiers and upkept by these nobility. Well, now all of a sudden, these skills of trade, like farming and everything that may have been in these guys' families for generations, well, that's gone. They can't do it anymore. And so it is a really interesting thing. But yeah, so that's the big thing with the 13th is, you know, they were risen by Julius Caesar. They fought with him in Gaul. They were there for his big moments during the Gallic campaign, but more than anything, they marched across the Rubicon with him. And that cemented their place in history. And they are a major, like, even though they get disbanded at Pharsalus, Augustus brings them back up to deal with the son of Pompey, who had become a pirate around the Sicilian coast. And they did very well there, and they maintained throughout the remainder of the empire. They were, by the time of Trajan, they were one of the premier legions during the Dacian campaigns. So like they are a very prominent force. They got to have quite the lifespan, which for a legion is an impressive thing. Many legions, whether it's due to loss of manpower during campaigns or just being dismissed and never being brought back, most legions you would see come in and out every 10 years or so and then just be gone. So for a legion to last from the time of Caesar to the very end of the empire is no small thing. And it's a good thing to talk about, especially on tonight's episode, because as we said, you know, Ray Stevenson played Titus Pullo, who is this very loyal soldier to the 13th. He's a very loyal legionary. And so with that, we're actually going to start, we're going to share some of our favorite clips from HBO's Rome as we start to like wind down the episode.
No, I'm just realizing we did talk about this beforehand, but now I'm realizing, are we going to get struck for sharing this stuff?
I don't give a shit. I'm not monetized.
That's true.
It's like I have 2 viewers. Oh man.
I
Okay.
mean, they can't like take down the stream, right? They can't just like shut us off.
I mean, I don't really care. Like I don't like it. I mean, at the end of the day, if our stream gets taken down because of it, I mean, there are 2 people in the chat, and they'll probably thank YouTube for it. So, we've got Dean James has entered
it's
the
for
chat.
a good cause.
The time between the Tyrannosaurus and the Stegosaurus was longer than the time between the Tyrannosaurus and humans. The period of dinosaurs lasted a really long time. Thank you, Dean. That was the best back offer for tonight. Finally, someone comes here with the guts to say it. Thank you, Dean. All right. Well, anyways, so let's start off with. All right. So we talked a bit about Elysia at the beginning, and this is, if you could not have asked for a more perfect way to start this show. And it's funny because one of my buddies and I were talking about this scene about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and he was complaining because he was like, as great as that scene is, he was all mad about how poorly costumed the Celts, the Gallic Celts were. And I'm just like, yeah, but they're not the cool part of the show. Like, it's a Rome. It's called Rome. It's not Vercingetorix. Like, Vercingetorix had great costumes. Like, yeah, but like, what about everyone else? It's like, yeah, I don't care. I'm not here for your barbarian hordes. I'm here for my Roman badasses.
Yeah.
So
Listen, they ran out of money basically after season 1. Just getting you what you got on screen. Like
they still had a massive budget for season 2. The problem with season 2 wasn't that they didn't have money. It was that they were told effectively that the show had been canceled, and then they had planned out like 5 seasons of content.
oh
And
gosh.
then
So sad.
and then the DVD sales of Rome season 1 did astronomically well. And so then HBO came back and was like, okay, you're getting a second season, but this is it. And so they tried to fit in as much stuff. Like I think that the actual plan was to have the conflict between Antony and Augustus be built up between season 2 and 3, and then you were even going to have like Sextus
That would have been
Pompeius
great.
being like a prominent character and an antagonist for season 2 to as a wedge gets driven between the second triumvirate. Like they had like 5 or 6 seasons planned, and the plan was to go all the way through to like the birth of Christ effectively and have the final season take place in Judea.
That'd be pretty epic.
No bullshit. This is coming from the showrunner's mouth. But
like Grandpa Polo becomes Christian or something.
Well, no, like what it would be is that you would transition. Like eventually, Polo and Varenus would pass away, and then their kids and everything like that would become the new protagonists. And it was,
oh gosh, that would have been so cool.
But
instead, we got Game of Thrones. We got to see that through to the conclusion.
Yeah, I know.
Which is built on the grave of HBO's Rome. But
it really is. Without Rome, there is none of those shows. Without Rome and The Sopranos, the premium cable empire of HBO would not exist. And Rome is the thing that opened the door for those big budget, high fantasy period shows. It really is. And that's not even to mention the fact that a good quarter of the ensemble of HBO's Rome shows up at any given point in time in Game of Thrones. But anyways, so let's watch the 13th do what the 13th does best. Kill some balls. There's our man, Titus. So one of the great parts about this scene is how brilliantly the cinematography showcases the machine-like optimization of a legion.
Yeah.
And how it operates. And what you're about to see is that Titus Pullo doesn't fit. He in pretty much every way. They got probably like Ray Stevenson is, I think, 6'3", 6'4", massive dude, way taller than anybody else in that legion.
Not very Italian sized. Yeah.
No, and I think that was intentional because he's very much his own spirit. He's a big solo fighter. He is he's effectively Ajax the Great in the Trojan War. He's that guy that you go off and you let just do his own thing. And that's not how the Roman Legion works. And it's how you get introduced to this character, and it puts him in an immediate conflict with Varenus, who is the Centurion, and it's absolutely astounding.
Formation! Slow! Single formation! Shields on me! Get back in formation, you drunken fool!
It's beautiful.
Reform!
It's such a great introduction to these.
But look at him now. Justice knows every man's number. He has committed a terrible sacrilege, and he will pay for it with his life, as will any man here who breaks the law. Brawlers and drunkards will be flogged. Thieves will be strangled. Deserters will be crucified.
Is that it? I was just beginning to enjoy myself.
Wells Fargo has donated
Oh,
60
good.
million.
Wells Fargo. Thank you. Anyways, so that's
Yeah,
it.
like
That's
fine wine, aged so well.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely fantastic. And one of the things, like even in that ending scene where like Pullo's being flogged, and you've got Varenus is like letting people know like this is what's going to happen to any of you assholes that tries to pull this shit. Because order is tantamount. Like the Roman legion is this kind of brilliant, like apex combination of classical antiquity, civilization of classical antiquity blending with warfare, right? There's this rigid command structure down to the even a small level. Like you have, it's not just about your commanders and legates on horseback that are making the decisions from a campsite far away. No, you've got the centurions. You have that are commanding their centuria, like which are like 100 guys, which is technically a lot of people, but by that point in time standard, that's not a lot at all. Like the arithmetic of battle, 100 men aren't necessarily going to make the tide in any given encounter. It was less organized and structured than Republic Roman. I don't know what he means by that.
I'd like to see that argument. That's interesting. I mean, both ends of the Roman history have a lot of amazing victories in the face of overwhelming odds. And
100%. And that's not to say that there haven't been times where a 100-man army does turn the tide, but generally by that point in time, battles were effectively arithmetic to an extent. Like, yes, training and equipment and everything like that mattered, but if you had a force that outnumbered another force like 10-1, you're probably winning that fight. Odds are not going in the favor of the one there. Like, there were definitely circumstances where people pulled those kind of victories off between, well-trained, well-disciplined troops, and just keeping on in there and setting themselves up in an advantageous position. I mean, that's what happens. Like with the Romans, you have that happened against Boudica. They put themselves in a perfect position that plays into the legion's strengths and plays against the strengths of Boudica's forces, and they are outnumbered tremendously. And the Battle of Wadling Bridge does not go well for Boudica.
Yeah. Really, the first. In a way, I like to think of them as the first like modern army, in a sense, just because of that ability to like show up anywhere, anywhere they could march or sail to, and kind of like they could be the same army anywhere they went, if that makes sense, like that's why we could, a couple episodes ago, we were like, they're able to like instantly figure out from Google Maps where a Legion encampment was. Like there's only, you could do that with a Roman army, because the whole point is that they could just stamp themselves across the planet, which is just it's amazing. Like it's just really remarkable that they're able to keep that going for centuries, with at least in spirit. Like that was the gold standard of how to do an army, and it still affects modern armies today, those principles.
Absolutely. All right, so we've got one last clip here from Matt. This is coming from towards the end of the first season, where Titus Pullo ends up becoming a gladiator for a little stint after being caught in a murder, effectively. He was acting as a thug and killing political opponents of people, and because he was drunk, he carelessly killed this guy, and he was put on trial and was sentenced to death in the arena. So this is him as a gladiator, and it's a great scene. So.
Jones, Gaia, and this. I humbly beg you accept this creature as my offering.
So, really quickly, for anybody who is curious, Janus, Gaia, and Dis. So, there is a slightly unfair conception that Rome copied its entire religion from Greece and that it didn't do anything of its own. Gaia is certainly a Greek concept, as well of like Mother Earth. As in fact, I'm fairly certain the Gaia is even the Greek name. But Janus and Dis are two deities that are very distinctly Roman. Dis is kind of this underworld deity that is almost like a Tartarus like figure where it's almost hellish. But and like you will see, like in Rome, you will see people praying to the gods of Dis and when they're cursing people. But it is a very distinctly Roman religious trait. And then Janus is a god that we still don't even understand much about. Outside of his representation, we know that he is a god of doorways, time, of fortune, both good and bad. But he's known predominantly as the two-faced god, and a lot of the information of Janus and the intricacies of his cult have been lost. But very interesting character. I just figured I'd throw that bit in there.
And if it pleases you, I ask you to give Irene long life. And same for my friend Lucius Varenus and his family, if it's not too much. And let Irene know I'm sorry for what I did.
It's a good arc. That's the guy he punched at the last clip.
Well, Lucius Varenus is, yeah.
Come on, soldier. Up!
I love even the reverence of sacrifice, even though this is literally, he just killed a cockroach. And the sacrifice to these gods. He carries reverence.
Corvo was this one. Soldier.
Stand up and fight.
I don't want to.
That's not how it works. You're supposed to resist.
Not if I don't want to. I just want to die, all right? So come ahead and kill me and be done with it.
Bollocks. Move.
What's wrong with you? Where's your dignity?
Oi, soldier, wake up! Why don't you come here and suck my cock?
Look, just hold your sword. Just stand up and hold it, that's all. You don't have to run about or anything.
You're not but a bloody molly. You and the whole 13th, not but bloody mollies.
Bloody mollies.
Very period
I
authentic.
piss on the 13th.
Pig spawn, all of them.
Why don't you and the 13th all line up and suck my...
God, this flow is different from the ground.
Yep. Thought the chat would appreciate that, even though we're ignoring them completely. At least they got some good. Are you not entertained, chat? You got some good gladiator killing. So.
Oh, did we get copyright struck? Is our stream
gosh,
down?
I hope not.
I'm
This says it's live.
I'm totally and completely shocked that playing long extended clips of a major show resulted in a copyright violation. Okay.
Oh, hilarious. We did get... Oh, that's funny.
Okay. Well,
They shut us down. I guess we didn't do enough commentary.
okay, whatever.
They don't even tell us on our end. That's funny. We just have to find out from the chat.
Let's
Says we're
see.
live.
I'm going to see if we're still going over there. And in Rome.
Well, that was an
Stream
honor of Titus.
unavailable. Stream suspended for policy violations. Whatever.
Isn't that amazing? You can just share like someone else's YouTube link and you get in trouble, you know. It's on their site.